critical thinking exercise. To prepare for this, I'm going to do this. All right. Trevor Bauer. He has been reinstated by Major League Baseball after his suspension of 2 years was reduced to 192, 193 games. So he's reinstated by the MLB, and reports are coming out that the Dodgers are going to release him. Now, one of the people I follow on Twitter, the Prospect Times, he was flamed for a poll that he tweeted out last night. And his tweet was like, just from a baseball's perspective, would you want Trevor Bauer to sign with the Rangers? And, he strictly put just from a baseball perspective. And people were flaming in the replies and the quote tweets saying, like a few reporters were, one reporter said, from all things you have to ask, just from a baseball perspective, you ask this. And other people were sewing out about it, saying, from a human being's perspective, blah, blah, blah. Like, people were sewing out. And then he had to apologize in a later tweet saying, that's not a realistic perspective. I apologize, blah, 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 for offending anyone. Me personally, like, just from a baseball's perspective, like, yeah, he's asking just from a baseball's perspective, because obviously there's a lot more to Trevor Bauer than just baseball. And hey, I'll put my vote out there. I voted yes, because just from a baseball's perspective, I would love to have Trevor Bauer, but obviously there's more to it than that. So for him to apologize for that, I just think it's like, come on, dude. People are going to be soaring out over that just because they want to make it more than just a baseball's perspective. So, Trevor Bauer. I looked into the case like a year ago when it was happening, but now I looked at it again, and here's my final conclusion. So, his criminal charges were dropped for sexual assault, and he then sued for defamation against news publications like The Athletic, Molly Knight, a reporter, and the accuser. And I think that defamation suit was one of the defamation suits was dropped by the court. But his gripe was the publications, reporters, and the accuser were saying that the accuser suffered a fractured skull, even though the CAT scan didn't show that. So lots of publications were going ahead saying, "Oh, Trevor Bauer fractured this accuser's skull." And even Molly Knight was saying you can't consent to a fractured skull, even though the CAT scan didn't show a fractured skull. So he wanted to sue for defamation over that. Sorry, I'm shaking the camera a little bit. And the court dropped that defamation suit for, I think, I'm not sure which defamation suit was dropped. I didn't do my sufficient research. Sorry about that. But, and now there's a countersuit that the accuser's doing, and Trevor Bauer's legal team's having a problem with that because they're like, oh, how come she could do this switcheroo? Something like that. But anyways, do I think Trevor Bauer is innocent? Do I think he's guilty? I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in that narrative because obviously his charges were dropped. And so anytime charges are dropped, there is not enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that there was a case. Does that mean he is completely innocent, that he is this innocent butterfly? Does it mean that he is a serial rapist? No, it isn't. My conclusion, personally, Trevor Bauer engaged in some risky sex. Now, I don't have any personal background because I don't really I don't really have the experience. Now, you can decide if I am providing good analysis here, but um, he's into some rough sex, it sounds like. And having that casually is, you're pushing the envelope there. So obviously, the accuser suffered some bruises, suffered some facial uh, marks, and looking at the text between her and her cousin, she consented to it, but she's like, I consented to this, but geez, I have bruises on me. So, is it consensual? Yeah, but obviously Trevor Bauer's pushing the envelope. So, I think Trevor Bauer learned a valuable lesson. You can't really do that casually. Um, and a few years ago, I remember him saying that, uh, he's into having casual sexual partners, but I think he now knows that he shouldn't really do that. I mean, do that with someone that you've spent a good amount of time with. That's my advice. But now people are going ahead and saying he's a rapist. He sexually assaulted that person. Um, I'm not really into that narrative. My narrative is Trevor Bauer engaged in risky behavior. Um, because having these encounters with, whether it be a fan, whether it be someone that's done stuff with players, um, it's very risky to do that. It was consensual at the end of the day based on the accuser's texts, but very risky. And even like the accuser, um, she liked engaging in that stuff, but then the accusations came out. So obviously, Trevor Bauer engaged in risky behavior. So now teams are going to have a moral dilemma trying to decide about a hypothetical Trevor Bauer signing. Um, and some teams are like, okay, it's not worth the risk. Maybe some teams are thinking, all right, I think he'll be fine in a clubhouse. Teams are probably thinking all types of things. So it's just one of those things. And fans are obviously going to have all types of perspective on the situation. Some some fans are going to think he's completely innocent. Charges weren't filed. Some people are thinking he's a rapist. He should not sign for the team. They're going to have all kinds of perspectives. Now, me being so supremely smart. No, I'm just kidding. I just think he engaged in risky behavior. That's all. It was consensual once again, but it was very risky. So, do I think teams are going to sign him? I think one team's going to. I really think one team is going to do it. I think. I think so. Because they're maybe going to have the same perspective as me because I'm obviously so exceptional. No, just kidding. But do I think the Rangers are going to do it? Um, I don't know. Because obviously, back when this happened, Trevor Bauer's teammates on the Dodgers didn't want him in the clubhouse. So, and what's to say other players across all 30 teams don't feel that way? I mean, people are going to have their feelings about this situation. They're not going to really have the, because, people are only going to probably look at the headlines or the accusations, not really the court case and or the evidence. They're just going to go with their personal narratives. And, especially um, especially they're going to look at things from how are they going to how is this going to look to female fans of these teams. They're going to look at that from that perspective as well. So it is going to be a media circus wherever Trevor Bauer sides. And do I think one team is going to do it? My bold prediction is yes. One team is going to take the brunt of everything and sign Trevor Bauer so that they can get something out of him. But that's my critical thinking exercise of Trevor Bauer. This is me putting my opinion out there. Please discuss in the comments. Soy out in the comments if you want to. But that is my bold, critical thinking opinion.